Hello, boys and girls. We are going to be starting a brand new read aloud called The Missing Manatee. This means you will have a mystery to solve as the story goes through. So as you're listening, make sure you're asking and answering yourself some questions. Be thinking, what's happening? We need to solve the mystery. So based on the title, what do you think the mystery is going to be about? Do you happen to have your stuffed animal friend nearby to help you? Go ahead and talk to your stuffed animal friend and give them your prediction. What do you think the passage is going to be about? If you mentioned a missing manatee, you're probably on the right track because that's the name of the title and the picture that you see. So let's go ahead and read chapter 1, and after you will have an exit ticket just to get you thinking about what we read. So chapter 1. The day I found the dead manatee began badly. I was walking past my mother's bedroom when I overheard her talking on the phone. "No, Mag, I don't want you to come back. Not now. Not ever," she said. Mag is my father. I left the house and got into my skiff and ran a couple of miles out into the Gulf of Mexico, hoping the speed and the salty breeze would blow the words right out of my head. But now, hours later, they continued to cut into the corners of my mind, hard and sharp. So, I decided to call it quits and was heading back upriver when I saw the manatee. It was rocking back and forth like a big round baby in the gentle waves that lapped the sawgrass growing at the edge of the small island. I guess a tourist must have thought the creature was scratching itself for having a snooze, but I've lived all my 11 years on this river, and I spent a lot of time watching manatee. Something was wrong with this one. I cut the engine of my skiff and guided it up to the grass to get a better look. Right away, I could tell it was dead. There wasn't any rotten smell yet, or any swelling, and no gulls or crabs or crows were picking at the flesh, so I knew it hadn't been dead for long. Looking at that body, there was, with all the life gone from it, gave me an achy feeling in my chest. Manatees, when they're alive anyway, are irresistible. The same way puppies and kittens and baby ducks are. They wallow around the water, too trusting or too lazy to move out of the way of danger. They're so dopey acting and so homely, they're cute. I read someplace that when the old sailors told of seeing mermaids, they were actually looking at manatees, which really cracked me up. I mean, a manatee looks kind of like a gigantic, dark brown Idaho potato or balloon that's got blown up wrong. Now those guys imagined that a roly-poly animal with tiny little eyes and a whiskery face was a beautiful woman with a tail? Well, if you ask me, they must have been out on sea for a long, long time. I checked the creature's back for propeller scars. Most manatees have slashes across their backs because they don't know enough to swim away from boats. Lots of boaters either don't know that or don't care, so collision between boats and manatees are pretty common. Now on our river, because it's a manatee refuge, but when the creatures go out into the open water, they're almost like sitting ducks. Yep, I could see this manatee had had at least one run at the propeller, but the scars were old and healed over. I wondered if it might have simply died of old age. I guessed it happened that way sometimes. Was this one old? I didn't know how to tell. I noticed some streaks of an odd reddish color swirling in the water, and then I saw a round hole in the back of the creature's head. The red stuff was seeping from it, mixing quickly with the brackish river water. It took a while before I got it. I was looking at blood coming from a hole. Can you make a prediction with your stuffed animal friend? Where do you think that hole came from? Talk to your stuffed animal friend. So it came from a bullet hole. But that didn't make any sense. Manatees are protected species. Nobody can hunt them. You can get a stiff fine just for bothering or chasing them. There are bigger fines, even jail sentences for actually harming or killing one. Although I'd never heard of anybody doing that. There was no reason to. The idea of somebody feeling threatened by a manatee and shooting it out of self-defense was so ridiculous it was almost funny. What kind of person would fire a gun at such a harmless animal? The question made my heart pound unpleasantly, first with anger and then with fear. I looked at the manatee's wound still bleeding. Whoever had done this must be lurking nearby, watching. He wouldn't want to be discovered, that was for sure, and he had a gun. Suddenly I had a feeling that I was being watched. I looked around quickly. To the west, the river ran into the Gulf where I'd come from. To the east, it headed back inland towards Chassochiki Springs, the town where I lived. On both sides of the river were acres and acres of sawgrass, mangrove trees, scrubby cedars, and palmettos. There were about 1 million places for a person to hide, and all I saw were some mullets jumping and an egret preening on the opposite bank. I took a deep breath to slow the beating of my heart and try to decide what to do. I knew there were about 800 numbers to call if you found a dead manatee, or one that was injured, orphaned, or wearing a tag. I'd seen the posters hang at the marina and in the stores hundreds of times, but I've never memorized a number. And anyway, I didn't have a cell phone. The radio in my boat wasn't working either. It needed a new antenna, and I hadn't saved enough yet to get one, although I was getting close. I'd broken the rules that morning, going out in the open water without a working radio, and if Mom knew, she'd ground me for the rest of my life. If it was up to her, I wouldn't be alone on this boat in the first place, but Mom realized she couldn't stop me. I'd passed the boating safety course and had my photo ID card to prove it. Besides, I was Mac's son. See, Mac, my dad, is a fishing guide. He grew up in the Chassochiki Springs and began handling boats when he was 6 years old. He tried to raise me the same way, and it drove Mom crazy. She was always fussing and calling Mac irresponsible, and was always telling her to relax. What did she want to do? Wrap me in plastic for safekeeping? That was one of the things I used to argue about until Mom told Mac to move out 3 weeks ago. He went down the road a little way to live in a trailer. Just for a while, Mom told me, until they figured things out. Then I asked Mac why he was leaving his own house, why he was leaving me. He said he didn't want to have to listen to any more fighting. Then why don't you just stop fighting? I said. But he looked sad, gave me a hug, put a garbage bag with a bunch of his clothes in it into the back of his pickup, and drove off. Now, Mom had decided she didn't want him to come back, and I heard her say it. She hadn't asked me what I wanted, so right then I didn't much care what she would have to say about me being out in the Gulf without a busted radio, or with a busted radio. Besides, I was looking at a manatee. There had to be at least 1,200 pounds of dead weight. I knew from experience if I got out of the boat, my feet would sink knee-deep in the wet, oozing mud. If I were lucky and someone came along, they could pull me out. Both my sneakers would be stuck under, never be seen again. But even if I could get out of my skiff, I wasn't strong enough to lift the manatee. And if I were able, by some miracle, to get into the boat, it'd probably sink my skiff. I was going to have to leave it and go tell somebody. I wasn't worried about finding it again. I knew the river the way I knew my own bedroom. I checked the tide. It was going down. Good. The body wouldn't wash away with high water, and a light wind was pushing it right up against the island. All of a sudden, I couldn't wait to get away from there. Being alone with that dead body was starting to give me the creeps. But when I came back less than an hour later with a deputy from the sheriff's department, the manatee was gone. And that is the end of chapter 1, boys and girls, of the missing manatee. What do you think happened? Go ahead and log into your Google Classroom if you're not there already, and please finish the exit ticket I have created for chapter 1. And I'll see you again soon.